The atmosphere in the courtroom changed the instant she walked in. You could feel the shift. The space was packed with lawyers, journalists, and anxious family members. Then, silence fell over the room. It was the daughter of Teyana Taylor and Iman Shumpert who took the stand. No flashing cameras, no microphones, just a composed young girl standing before a room full of adults, all eager to hear her speak. Everyone leaned in, holding their breath. This moment was about to shift everything. Iman had spent months fighting for sole custody, with his legal team portraying Teyana as unstable, overly emotional, and incapable of giving their daughter the stability she needed. But the second their child began to speak, that carefully crafted story started to fall apart, like a cheap suit soaked in the rain. She didn't speak with anger or fear, just with remarkable clarity. Her voice was steady, her words simple and sincere. There was no exaggeration, no drama, only truth. "Mom takes care of me," she said, even when she's sad. That one line hit the courtroom like a jolt. Pens paused mid-stroke. Iman's jaw tightened. Nearby, Teyana placed a hand on her chest, trying to hold back her emotions. This wasn't a performance. It wasn't staged for the press. There was no act, just a child sharing her reality. And that reality did Iman no favors. For months, Iman's team had pushed a narrative that Teyana was unpredictable, that her home wasn't stable, and that her new relationship was pulling focus from parenting. But now, their daughter stood before the judge, calmly offering a version of reality that contradicted all of it. Even the usually stone-faced court officers shifted in their seats, their attention fully locked on her. Later, one attorney would admit, "I've never seen a room fall silent that quickly." The girl didn't come to tear down her father or to launch accusations. Instead, she spoke calmly about her experiences, what made her feel safe and understood. Her honest words carried far more impact than any legal paperwork in the room. Then, just as the courtroom settled into a heavy silence, she surprised everyone by saying, "Mom's friend is really nice to me. He makes me feel safe." Without offering any names or further details, that simple statement stunned everyone present. Anyone following the case immediately understood who she was referring to: Aaron Pierre, the man Teyana had been quietly involved with. He was the same person Iman's legal team had tried to portray as an unwelcome influence in their daughter's life. A subtle ripple passed through the courtroom, not loud gasps, but a quiet shift in energy as several eyes glanced toward the back where Aaron sat, calm and motionless. He didn't speak or react. He simply observed. And strangely, that quiet presence was more powerful than any words or grand gestures. Aaron didn't come with a flashy suit or a prepared statement, nor did he attempt to assume a fatherly role. He simply sat quietly, offering silent support, a silence that spoke volumes. Iman appeared as if he'd been struck hard, not because his daughter had attacked him, but because she hadn't said what he had expected or perhaps desperately needed to hear. He sat frozen, his complexion drained and his eyes barely moving. One reporter even tweeted that he looked like a ghost, someone who suddenly realized the rules of the game had changed and he no longer knew how to play. And that's exactly what was happening. The courtroom proceedings were not meant to unfold this way. Iman's legal team had their strategy in place, prepared objections and ready arguments, but they had no control over the honest truth coming from their daughter. And that truth had just turned everything upside down. As soon as the child mentioned feeling safe around her mom's friend, Iman's attorney quickly objected, claiming it was improper for a minor to discuss adult relationships in court. The judge paused, gave a long, thoughtful look, and then dismissed the objection, stating, "The emotional context matters." This ruling was more than just a procedural victory for Teyana. It signaled the court's willingness to hear the full truth, no matter how uncomfortable it might be. From that moment on, the girl began sharing quiet but powerful insights into her everyday life. There were no dramatic accusations, just sincere honesty. She spoke about daily routines, late-night phone calls, and moments that stayed with her, like her mom checking her homework even through tears or making pancakes. After a tense argument with Iman the night before, her stories weren't mere anecdotes. They painted a picture of a life that wasn't perfect, but was full of effort and love, and that made all the difference. Iman's team grew visibly uneasy, whispering among themselves and rifling through notes. At one point, someone handed him a piece of paper, but he never glanced at it. His attention remained fixed on his daughter, who stood just feet away, unknowingly dismantling their carefully constructed case. Reporters in the gallery typed rapidly, eager to capture every detail: the tone, the timing, the subtlety. This wasn't about which parent had a nicer home or a better public image. It was about the child, and she was clearly showing who she trusted when times got tough. The judge leaned in during her testimony, eyes focused and intent, clearly taking in every word. This wasn't some rehearsed performance. It was something far more powerful, a child speaking openly and honestly without any filter. That honesty changed everything. When she mentioned overhearing arguments, Iman's legal team objected once more, arguing it was traumatic and unnecessary to involve a child in adult disputes. But the judge once again allowed it. What followed was one of the day's most striking moments. "I don't like it when they fight," she said softly, "but Mom tells me it's never because of me. It's never because of me." Those words hit the room hard. The judge nodded slowly in acknowledgement. Teyana quietly wiped away tears, and Iman sat stiffly, a vein bulging on his neck. Nobody anticipated this outcome. Most expected the child to offer a few polite, vague answers, perhaps say she loved both parents, and then step down. But instead, she remained, spoke candidly, and shared herself in a way that transformed the courtroom from a battlefield into something resembling a diary being read aloud. While she never spoke harshly about Iman, she also never portrayed him as the hero. And that quiet omission spoke volumes. The courtroom was left with a silence that no amount of prepared statements or cross-examinations could fill. Aaron Pierre remained seated throughout, silent but deeply noticed. When the daughter spoke about feeling safe with him, his only visible reaction was a subtle shift, as if he was fighting back tears. There were no dramatic displays, just a quiet, steady presence. By the time her testimony concluded, the entire room felt turned inside out. The carefully polished strategies and rehearsed arguments had given way to something raw, uncomfortable, and profoundly human. As the judge thanked the young girl for her courage, the courtroom fell silent once more, not from shock, but out of deep respect. Before the day even ended, the courtroom sketch had leaked, capturing Iman with his face buried in his hands, shoulders, slumped and posture defeated, like a man who had lost far more than just a legal battle. The image quickly went viral, sparking memes within the hour. One read, "When your daughter hits harder than the judge ever could." Another joked, "This isn't just a legal defeat, it's a personal one." But beneath the humor, something deeper was unfolding. The online reaction wasn't just about custody being lost. It was a response to a moment of truth, raw and unfiltered, beyond any PR spin or legal strategy. It was about truly listening to a child and finally hearing her voice. Support for Teyana and her daughter quickly exploded online, with hashtags like "RR Brave Queen" and "Protect Black Girls" trending within hours. TikTok creators dissected the testimony as if it were a powerful documentary, while crowds gathered outside the courthouse, holding signs and cheering them on. This was about more than just backing Teyana. It was a show of solidarity with a mother who had been publicly criticized for years, accused of being too emotional or unstable to care for her child. But the daughter's honest words turned that narrative upside down. Just a few heartfelt sentences were enough to affirm Teyana's struggle. Those close to her said her legal team left the courtroom feeling more confident than ever. One friend noted, "She didn't coach her daughter. She listened, and that made all the difference." That moment quickly became the defining story. It wasn't some calculated act. It was an honest, unfiltered truth that cut through all the noise. Iman's camp didn't handle it well. His family reportedly criticized the judge's decision to let the girl testify, calling it reckless. Some suggested the child had been coached, but there was no proof to support those claims. The girl's words weren't polished or rehearsed at all. In fact, their power came from how genuine and spontaneous they were. She stumbled over her words sometimes, her voice broke, and she looked to her mom for comfort. It was all completely natural, and that authenticity made it impossible for Iman's team to spin the story in their favor. The next day, legal experts appeared on morning shows and podcasts to discuss the case. One remarked, "It's rare for children to testify, and when they do, it usually doesn't change much." But this time, everything shifted. The judge didn't issue an immediate ruling. Instead, he thanked the girl for her courage and explained that more time was needed to consider the case. Still, that recognition, acknowledging that he truly saw and heard her, changed the whole atmosphere. Outside the courthouse, the crowd celebrated while Aaron Pierre quietly slipped out a side door, avoiding cameras and interviews. His silent exit spoke volumes. He had come to support Teyana without making it about himself. No showmanship, no grand gestures, just steady, loyal presence. And in a room filled with loud tactics and egos, that humble act stood apart. For Teyana, this fight was never just about gaining custody. It was about being recognized as a mother, a guardian, and a steady presence in her daughter's life. And through her daughter's testimony, she finally was. No matter how the final decision turns out, one thing is undeniable. Teyana didn't come to court armed only with lawyers. She came with the truth.